First question. Tell us who you are and what identities and experiences have helped shape you.
Because I can answer. So I'm Jacob. I think I have like a lot of different like identities and things I can identify with. I think one of the major ones that I've had in my life is being a biracial male, being black and white. That was something like when I was younger was definitely kind of a struggle, kind of dealing with. Sometimes being too white for the black kids or being too black for the white kids was always a thing, especially like in elementary school. As I've gotten older, it's been kind of easier to deal with, but early on in my life, like that was probably one of the bigger ones. And then I think being an athlete kind of helped me kind of ease out of that and transition into really just like being myself, because like sports is this place where I know I'm gifted and I know I can really be myself. So I would say that's for me.
I think about like people that have shaped me is like how I kind of think about it. So like obviously my parents, but I would say more than that, like different coaches and like influences that I had. So like teachers, coaches, mentors, to kind of teach me like how to have good character or and things that I believe in and stuff like that. So that's kind of what I think about of like who I am, and my identity is like what people poured into me, and like those people that were mentors in my life.
So based off of your answer, let me add to that. How have your identities shaped you or shaped your student-athlete experience?
I feel like what Griffin said, like you're a little bit of everyone, and like you don't realize it until like reflecting, like, oh, I do this because someone else taught me how to do this. And I think that really starts to pour out into just you as a teammate, and just like you pour into your other teammates as well, and then
yeah, I think like in that respect, it really shapes how you interact with different teammates, especially like once you get to the college level and you have people from all over the country and all over the world coming in. Those influences those influential people in your life really shape how you interact with everyone else and like the bonds that you form on your teams.
Yeah, and I think it's really cool adding off that, like how like the football team, for example, like we can have 100 guys like from all over the place. You know, most of the teams are pretty diverse, but like it's hard for 100 guys to all find something in common. Like, so these people coming from all over the place, having different identities, being poured into by different people, having different mentors, being taught different things, like how they can come together for like one purpose, right? Like winning a football game, but like even bigger than that, like being successful or like graduating, you know, and stuff like that. So
you talk about having a big team, and I know the other teams aren't as big, but you're still a team.
Yeah.
How do you as an individual use your voice as an athlete?
I think so. I'm a first generation college student, so I've had to kind of seek out people that I want to emulate or like different qualities. So I think at school, at least, I refer people to people I've gone to that have qualities or things that they're looking for as well. So kind of just the director of people.
Yeah, even going off of that, I think it's more so using my action more than my voice. I think like when people look at me or look at anyone, like, I mean, people look at you and they kind of form an identity for you, you know what I'm saying? Like, they see me as like a colored male, like playing football, and the actions that I take, the things that I do like on a daily basis is really how I represent my identities. And so like that's something that is always kind of in the back of my mind, like always represent what you represent like the right way. Like obviously you think of your family, you think of like this ND we wear on our chest, but I mean there's so many other things as well. Like for me, like being like a half African American male, like that's something like I'm in a position where I know I can graduate college and I'll be the first one in my family to do so. And so like that's like a great opportunity, and just like among so many other things, like just more so in my action, but also in my voice speaking up, like when opportunities like this present themselves, being able to represent my group in the right way and say the things that could educate other people, because like it's important when like I don't know what it's like to be like a full white male, you know what I'm saying? So and like people don't know what it's like to be a biracial male like I am. So it's important to speak up, but I think it's more so important to use your action in the right way.
Are there certain values that you all have had like passed to you or that you cherish wholly that help shape your identities at all?
My mom always told me like everything happens for a reason, and so I've just constantly thought about that when something happens that obviously isn't what I want, and I just know that there's a plan behind that, and just gotta let everything flow.
I think just like being real, like with your identity, like especially with your teammates, just like, I don't know, football obviously is a big one too with so many teammates. Like if you're real with all your teammates and like use your voice to kind of say what's important to you, I think people on your team are going to respect you a little bit more. And if they know what's important to you, maybe it'll be a little more important to them. So I mean, yeah, going back to using your voice, I think just with your teammates, just being real about what's important to you and like who you are, your teammates are going to respect you for that. And then, yeah, I don't know, maybe that'll be an important piece of their life too, after you share that with them.
I think I've always thought about identity kind of as everyone has multiple identities. So, like personally, I'm a soccer player, but I'm also a student and I'm an athlete, and I'm involved in like a variety of different clubs at the university, and at each of those points or like I don't know what you call it, but like with all of the different like things that I'm like a part of, I guess is that what you'd say? You take away a lot of different important lessons. So it's like for my parents, it was like for them, they always really encouraged working hard, but working hard for things that you cared about. And then coaches, like, and teachers, and being like a sister, like all of those different roles that I play all bring together my identity, but they all individually taught me something different. So there's like a lot of different takeaways, I guess.
With all of you coming from such diverse backgrounds, how do you share your experiences with one another or with your teammates here on campus?
I think one of the coolest things about our team is we have a lot of international students, so just learning from all of them and like their cultures and their background, and I can teach them about little things from my home and where I'm from, and I learned so much about their cultures that it's just like I wouldn't have those experiences if it wasn't like through athletics and just meeting so many different people from like different countries.
One of my favorite things that the softball team has done for years is like hosting family dinners when we go on trips, and I think that's such a good way to like show your team like where you came from and the type of dynamic that you have, and like all of the times we share special foods and stuff, and that was one of my favorites.
Yeah, to build off that, like I grew up a runner, and I went to a lot of different running camps and met so many different people through that, people of many different backgrounds, and I think because of that, I associate sports with being inclusive. And I think, like you said, like we all got together as a team and we made bracelets and we just got to talk about our day, and I don't know, right there, that's just being inclusive, you know what I mean? Like it's a really good feeling when you can just, everybody needs a somebody, so as a team, when you feel included, I think that makes the whole team better as a whole, and there will be more team chemistry.
I think that was something for me that was really important coming in last year, especially during COVID, not having in-person classes. I wasn't able to meet a lot of like other just students that went here, so having my team, and especially like the girls in my class and the class above me, and having them to kind of look to for help and like kind of learning how to adjust to living on your own. And for me, like my family's in Texas, so I'm pretty far away from home. So kind of being able to establish my team as like a home away from home is something that's really important. And it's like you kind of come into like having a group, for me, of like 30 friends that are like become family. And even though you don't always like win games, or you don't always like do your absolute best at practice, like at the end of the day, like what you take away from sports is just so much more than your actual athletic ability. You just make so many relationships that are very impactful.
A lot of times, kind of like, especially like in the football realm, like in our world, like a lot of it happens so naturally because we spend so much time together. Like we think, like during every sport kind of has like like we just call it fall camp. Like when we're out there, it's like 12-hour days, probably longer than that.
Yeah, it's like 7 to 7,
Right.
6 days a week.
Yeah, so like just going through the grind of that with people that are from completely different backgrounds from you, like a guy like me that, like growing up the way I did, like just outside West Side Chicago, like being with other kids that are from rural North Dakota and guys from like Texas and California, whether it be LA or the Bay, and like just guys from Arizona, like just so many different experiences, and just like going through that grind with them. At the end of the day, it shows like we're all just human and stuff. You know what I'm saying? We're all really the same when it gets down to it, but we all have such different experiences, such different knowledge on so many different things. When we come together, like it's just really cool to like be around people like that and just learn from them, and just noticing things that I may think is weird. Like, I mean, I think it's weird to drink a glass of milk with your dinner. Like that's like I've never thought of doing that in my life. So like that's the thing. I guess for guys from North Dakota, like I've never thought of doing something like that. But just like stuff like that though, is just like it's interesting to me, and like it's just like a little peek into their identity though. Like that's just who they are. They're just being themselves. You know what I'm saying? And I'm sure they probably look at things that I do and think like, wow, like, you know. So it is cool. It just happens naturally for me, I think.
So for all of you, where have you seen your greatest growth in your identities? So everyone in the room is an upperclassman pretty much at this point. So you've had the experience of being a college athlete and being on a university campus. Where have you seen your greatest growth in your identities?
My greatest growth came from my senior year, like realizing that softball was coming to an end and that I needed to find myself outside of my sport. I definitely saw a lot of growth in that time, and I mean, it made me better.
Yeah, I think going off of that, it's so easy for the athletes to like just identify as an athlete and just kind of think of like, yeah, going back to identities, like they identify as a soccer player or a softball player or a track and field athlete, or like, yeah, just kind of associate themselves with their sport. And I think that's super important to just like, I don't know, branch out. We're student athletes, so I mean, we're all students obviously, but then have extracurriculars or something else that like you identify with. Yeah, because we're not just athletes, and it's so easy to get like sucked into that. And then when it's almost over, like you said, being like an upperclassman, like you realize that athletics is going to end, and you kind of have to find your identity like in other things after college. So yeah, I completely agree with that.
Building off what you said, I think sometimes I don't like to introduce myself as a student athlete because I think people make a lot of judgments on that. They're like, oh, all you care about sports, like you don't stand up for anything really. And I think, but also I think being a student athlete is a big part of who I am and how I approach things and how I think about things. And I think I've experienced a lot of growth, and I realize what's important now. And I hear people say like, oh, I'm not gonna post this or talk about this, that's bandwagon, I'm not gonna do that, you know. But it's like, if you don't stand up for something, then you're gonna fall for everything, you know.
One thing I really struggled with was deciding what I want to do as a career. So I changed my major like 8 times. But I think like through softball I've been presented so many opportunities, and through that I've been able to actually figure out what I want to do. But it's not been athletically related of the different opportunities. So like community service, just working with a variety of different people. And so I think that has really helped me like grow as a person, is just the opportunities that are just so diverse.